I first wanted to ask you regarding the lawsuit. I know the specifics of the case and went through the complaint there, but let me ask, why are the municipalities blaming the opioid manufacturers for the recent health crisis, and do you believe that that's fair?
So to clarify, it's not just the manufacturers. There are essentially three categories of defendants in the lawsuit. One is the manufacturers, the second are the distributors, and the third group are local prescribers, folks who formerly practiced medicine and were responsible for distributing millions of opioid pills throughout Illinois, throughout the municipalities that we've filed suit on their behalf. We believe that we can show that these three groups of defendants, and collectively the defendants, engaged in a concerted effort to inundate and overprescribe opioids for, in many cases, treatment that was not needed or treatment that should have been on a different course. We have evidence that we've cited in our lawsuit related to a years-long campaign to increase opioid sales by misrepresenting their risks and benefits, as well as studies conducted by groups funded by these actors, by the defendants, whether it be the manufacturers or the distributors, to purportedly minimize the risks and benefits. And we believe that we can show that those were known to be false and known to be misrepresentations at the time they were made. So to the second question, which is this fair? The effects of opioid addiction are long-lasting. It's not one of those things where, easy example, you break an ankle, you go to the doctor, you get a cast possibly, you heal up in a few weeks, and hopefully you're all better. Opioid addiction is a different type of problem, and it has taken it's caused or taken a substantial toll on municipalities, both in terms of personnel, lost personnel, man hours, additional resources, additional training, and at the end of the day, money. There's been money needed to pay for some of these pills for municipalities that are self-insured and have to cover their own employees or their employees' beneficiaries under insurance policies. But as importantly, for those municipalities that pay for fire, police, first responders to have Narcan, the overdose antidote for opioid. Those drugs have not been cheap. The training to ensure that those administering the antidote is not cheap. And we believe that the manufacturers, the distributors, and the prescribers should be held accountable for that, because this is not something that's going to go away soon. It's going to be the needs and the costs are going to be ongoing for quite some time.
And with that, one of the things I wanted to ask is, why single out these manufacturers, the companies, so to speak, the ones you have as defendants within this lawsuit? Why single them out and not doctors or stores that allow for these products to be distributed? Why simply, kind of going along with what you said in here already, but clarifying, why not go after doctors and stores that help in the distribution process?
Fair question. The term bad actor in this case really should be applied to the folks that we've named as defendants in this lawsuit. Again, there was a concerted and so we allege, and we believe we can prove, a coordinated effort between the manufacturers and the distributors to push forward junk science, assert misleading claims about, again, the risks and benefits of opioids, using deceptive marketing to change the opinion of doctors who ultimately prescribe these to patients. We don't feel the doctors who received this information and reasonably relied upon it are the bad actors, should be the ones that are held accountable. Rather, we think that the true crux of the problem lies with the manufacturers and the distributors that we've identified.
So Pekin is the only municipality that's on the lawsuit that is not in the Chicago area. From your vantage point as the attorney on this case, how does Pekin fit into this entire equation?
Well, the opioid epidemic knows no bounds. It doesn't have a geographic epicenter. It doesn't have a socioeconomic, or other category we could, box the issue into. So from our standpoint, Pekin is no different than any other municipality that's in Cook County or in and around Chicagoland. And we hope that by seeing the example Pekin is setting and leading, that other municipalities nearby will join forces to increase the footprint that all of our collective Illinois municipalities have in this fight.
And my last question to you here is, in your opinion, what's the best case scenario for this lawsuit, and ultimately what would your team like to see done about the opioid epidemic?
Well, that's a great question. We've been asked in the past, what's the expected recovery? We think we can prove that the opioid epidemic was caused by big pharmaceutical companies and their closely related distributors, and we look forward to proving those claims in court and, leaving it up to a jury's decision as to a specific dollar amount. Some of the needed outcome here will be money to put towards resources, whether that's first responders resources, recouping costs incurred by the self-insured municipalities that they should not have had to pay, as well as treatment centers and professionals to staff those treatment centers. In addition, though, we think that as we've requested in the lawsuit, we think that injunctive relief is appropriate, meaning that these pharmaceutical companies and their distributors should reduce the number of pills that are being put out into the market, should be providing accurate and properly vetted from the medical community standpoint with appropriate medical standards, information and research on the impact of opioids and how to address the needs of those who may have unfortunately become addicted to opioids. So our hope takes a number of different forms, the monetary damages as well as injunctive relief and other resources or provided to these municipalities.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to add during the recorded portion of our conversation?
Sure. Yeah, just a couple things. First, we think that this lawsuit is a historic effort by the 11 municipalities throughout Illinois who have decided to join together to hold the opioid manufacturers and distributors responsible for the crisis that they created. This is a big issue. It's impacting communities throughout Illinois. And as I mentioned before, the fact that these municipalities have joined together in this way, we think creates a bigger footprint and provides greater leverage for both the individual and collective recovery. And the last thing I'll just mention is that the tax, both past tax, not in a hard money sense, but the toll that it's taken, both in a past sense, present, as well as for the foreseeable future, on each community is enormous, and we don't believe that should be borne on the taxpayers. And so hopefully this lawsuit will provide some relief and some remedies for each of these communities.
All right.